Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Soul-u-tions podcast. My name is Tara Simkins, and I'm your host. This is the podcast where we talk about all the things life, love, and the meaning of. And today's episode is no exception. Today, I'm going to share with you a really scary thing that happened last week. I want to also share with you how I walked through it, how I managed it, and how I hope to teach you that you can do the same to make your life easier, especially when the future is up in the air. So, take a listen to our intro, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So, whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
Well, I am here today, but I feel like I am barely hanging on. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those cat memes where the little cat is holding on to a wall or something, and it's like just hanging in there, and its little body is dangling, its little face is right above the wall. Well, that's me today, just barely hanging in there. But I really wanted to share with you some of the things that led up to me getting to this point. I also really want to normalize for you these points in life that no matter, what our best intentions are, no matter how much planning we do, no matter how much rest we get, no matter all of those things, guess what? One of the many things in life that we aren't in charge of is the future. And when I'm talking about the future, I'm not just talking about next year, as in 2026, we sitting here in October of 2025, but I'm even talking about in the next moment, in the next minute, in the next hour from now, something very unexpected could happen, and something that you never saw coming. And that is exactly what happened to me last week. And when those things happen, what I also want to share with you is that they don't just pull you out of the plans that you made, but I want to kind of go step by step through what happens in your brain, what happens in your body, and then what happens to all the other plans that you have in life. So I know that I've shared on here so many times about the fact that my son, Brennan, is a survivor of pediatric cancer. He's 23 years old now and in his final year at the College of Charleston. He was treated from 2009 to 2012 at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. I know that's a mouthful, but I do like to say the full name because that's what they call it. But most people, we just call it St. Jude. Anyway, he goes back to St. Jude every year for a battery of tests. He's part of a survivorship program, and they are trying to, because they couldn't predict the future when they gave him the medicine and the radiation, the chemotherapy that ended up saving his life and putting his leukemia in remission. When they gave that to him at the time, they had no idea what the future impact would be of the toxicity, the poison of that treatment. And so what they do is they invite Brennan and a number of their other patients to come back year after year. And then at that time, they measure what's going on in his heart, what's going on in his lungs, what's going on with his skin, with his gut, all the things. And they get a today snapshot that helps them see, for for new kids who are going to be under treatment protocols, they can say, if we give them this medicine, it will have X impact because that's what it's had on these other kids. But when Brennan had it, nobody could foretell what that future would be for him. We were just doing our best in the moment. And when we were there for all these tests, one of the things we didn't expect was for him to begin having some tonic-clonic seizures, which are those thrashing seizures. We used to call them grand mal seizures back in the day. And they are very disconcerting if you were someone witnessing someone just convulsing and maybe biting their tongue or a cheek and blood coming out. It really is a hard thing to watch. So it was very unexpected on Tuesday morning of last week when I awoke to Brennan having a seizure in his bed. And at that moment, I had to begin to work through just a number of steps to figure out, okay, how do I help him in this moment and get him the help that he needed in that moment, and then taking the step to the next moment. So first thing is, calling 911. Then the responders get there. Then it's what hospital do you want to go to? And then it's getting permission to go to that hospital. And then you get into the ER in the hospital and you start to run tests, and it's what other tests do we need? And so, every single step led you to another step. However, when you're the mom of a 23-year-old young adult and you didn't expect this to happen, your brain is not as logical, methodical, or prepared to know all of those steps. But what you can do, and this is the thing that I share with you often in this podcast, and I share it with my clients in the Soul-u-tions labs on a weekly basis, you can fall back on the tools which I've shared with you. And this is where that Navy SEAL saying goes. People so often don't rise to the occasion. They often fall to the level of skills that they've developed. And one of these skills, it's such a non-sexy topic to talk about. But when you are in the heat of one of these moments, it is going to be your lifeline. And even though I developed this tool back in 2009 at St. Jude, and even though I teach it daily, and even though I'm 16 years out of using this tool, I tell you what, last Tuesday, I had to sit my Fanny down in a chair once we'd gone through all the hospitals, like step by step. And when we got to our first breathing place, I had to say, Tara, you need to sit down in the chair, take out your journal and your pen, and start going through that 25-5-3 tool that you talk about on the podcast and you teach all your clients. Now, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, or it's your first time hearing me talk about the 25-5-3 tool, don't worry about that. All you have to do is make sure that you're on my mailing list at Tara Simkins, TaraSimkins.com, and you'll see at the very top of my website, there is a grab this masterclass, the 3 secrets to creating a life you love. Click that and put your name and email address in it. And then we will send this tool to you. So just listen to the rest of the podcast without worrying about the fact that you need to go do that. But if you want to hit pause and just go over to that website right now, TaraSimkins.com, you can sign up for it right now. Basically, what this tool does is, it starts us all out in the place where our brain doesn't go on its own naturally. When things go sideways, the first place your brain wants to go to is sideways to all of the things that are going wrong, to that one thing that you didn't expect. And then it wants to pile on all the other things that you didn't expect and that don't work. Instead of doing that, what you have to do is take control over your brain. You have to be an adult and be the driver of this beautiful vehicle for your brain. And you can see I've automatically, hand goes straight on the heart. It's just automatic to me, because what does that tell me to do? It is a signal that I give myself to stop, to take that pause, to stop, look, and listen at what's going on in my brain. What am I thinking? What sideways roads am I going down? And then to check in with my body to see, like, is my heart racing? Am I breathing properly? Am I feeling the effects of adrenaline and cortisol because of this emergency situation that I've been in? So I do this immediately, hand over heart. That tells me it's okay. You can start breathing. And then I open up that journal and I take my pen and I start writing the things that are supporting me in this very moment. And you have to begin to list them. And you have to list them before looking at any of the things that are going wrong, any of the things that have surprised you, any of the things that you can't control. Because if you go down that negative road first, you're going to stay down in the dumps. You have to, like, lift your eyes to a horizon, make your head look up and see the bigger picture of all the things that are working. And I share this all the time, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Like, the first thing on the list on a day like last Tuesday is gravity. I mean, gravity is working right now. I never think about gravity, but it's working. I'm not floating in the middle of this room. You're not floating in the place that you're listening to this podcast. No, we are being held to the earth by this invisible force that we cannot see and that we only know it's there because someone at school told us about this beautiful natural law of gravity that keeps us on this earth. And so I write gravity as the first thing that's working. Then if I'm using a pen and the ink is flowing, I'm going to write, my pen is working, this journal is working, my brain is working, this emergency room is working, my phone was working, the 911 operator system was working. I go on these really kind of macro level things that are working, the things that we love to overlook on a daily basis. But what I do is I make myself recognize all the things that are invisible to me usually, and the things that I take for granted usually. And what that does is it just helps ground me in the moment, and it helps me start to relax and to breathe and to be able to, trust in a bigger plan. And, if you're a person of faith, you're trusting in God's bigger plan. It helps me to surrender to all of the people who are experts in areas that I'm not an expert in, and to surrender in that moment to trust in God's plan for me, for my son, and for everyone, honestly. And then once I do that, I write down the things that aren't working, and then I write down 3 specific things that I can do. Now, on a day like last Tuesday, I had to list more than 23 things. And I think 25 things. I think I got up to 43 things. And it was because I wanted to. I'm like, I need to feel that more things are supporting me at the moment than just a regular maintenance dose of this 25-5-3 tool that I use. Like, I needed to know that there was more out there in the world supporting me than I normally than I normally pay attention to or tune into. Now, here's the other thing. Once you do it, it's not, I wish I could say it was a magic pill. I wish I could say it was like a magic spell, Harry Potter and some spell, and then I would stay in that state and that mindset of feeling supported. I wish I could say that, but it really doesn't work that way. What it does is it got me to the next moment where I could take in more information, and then I could figure out how to go from there. Now, one of those next things that it helped prepare me for was a text from my husband. I'm there alone. I don't have an opportunity to talk to him on the phone. We are in the emergency room. And when I tell you he started having more seizures. There's 7 nurses and attendants and doctors and all these things going on. And so I sent him a text. And he's such a person of action in these moments. Like I pause and he just like starts thinking ahead, like, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to get on a plane? Do I need to go to Memphis or blah, 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 blah. Get this information, get this information, get this information. And I'm putting my hand on my heart again because here's something else people don't tell you. I'm a week out from that experience, but I can feel my baseline level of just handling urgent situations and emergency situations is more elevated than normal. And so even just like talking at a fast pace or recounting the events, I can feel my heart rate start to rise again. And so again, this tool, hand over my heart, reassuring myself, that is like the signal that I give my body that, okay, you're not in that moment right now. You're a week out of it. You lived through it. Your son lived through it. You survived. You're on good footing right now. And so I give myself that moment. And then I can stay here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if not, you should watch all these things on YouTube. It's just so much fun, especially if you're a visual learner and it can keep you more engaged. But I'm pointing to this front part, my prefrontal cortex, where your executive function is in your brain. I'm pointing here. It will keep me in that part of my brain where I have the strongest decision-making skills. And what the research tells us is that when we do find ourselves in these situations and we begin to, like, our executive functioning begins to fall lower, and then our survival brain starts to elevate, we can maintain, like, both of those. Think about there are 2 brains online at the same time. We can maintain that with effort for a while. But if that survival brain begins to kind of take control over the executive functioning brain, this is the craziest statistic that I've learned in more recent research on the psychology of scarcity. You can lose up to 10 IQ points. You, the person who goes about her regular day doing all the things, being the master of the house and all the after-school activities and aging parents and your own work in the world, like, you think about all those IQ points it takes to be the person you are, to solve the problems you do on a daily basis, to show up as the best version of you. Whew. It takes every one of those IQ points. And when you find yourself in an emergency situation like this and your brain starts to compress and this old brain starts to come down, as those executive functioning like capabilities go down, so do your IQ points. So I knew also last Tuesday that I had to do this work. I had to keep putting my hand over my heart. I had to protect my peace of mind, like really protect my peace of mind and really regulate my nervous system, because I knew I needed every single IQ point that I could get that day to make the best decisions on behalf of my 23-year-old son. And one of the other things that really help you hold on to those IQ points to stay in the moment is this topic I really want to share with you today. This is the not allowing your brain to go too far into the future and start anticipating bridges that don't need to be built yet. I mean, so many of us, and number one guilty person to this, like when you're such a good problem solver, you can see, like, anticipate problems that you think might arise, and you can start to put into place a plan to address those problems before you get there. But you know, one thing that requires energy, that requires decision-making energy that you use up in planning for this future you don't know about, when the thing you need to do most is to conserve that energy. I'm going to share with you something that I came across last week, actually before this happened. And I was, that was such, that was one of the things actually on my 25-5-3 list of things that were working. The fact that I had just read this meditation the day before this happened. And it left me with such a beautiful image that I want to share with you. Because, listen, these are things that are as important on days like last Tuesday were for me and the big things, but they're also equally as important for the more ordinary interruptions when, you get a call from the school and your kid has a fever and all of a sudden everything you've planned for that day goes awry. Or, your car tire goes flat, right? I mean, you get in your car and you forgot that you haven't filled up the gas tank and you are running late for something. It doesn't matter how big or small these unexpected events are. These same tools apply equally in each of the scenarios. So this is a book. It's called Meditation for Mortals, 4 Weeks to Embrace Your Limitations, and I'm pulling this up here, and Make Time for What Counts. It's written by Oliver Burkeman, Burkman. Oliver Burkeman wrote the regular psychology installment in the Guardian newspaper for years. And this is his most recent book. What I love about this book is that it can be read daily. Each meditation is just like a yumminess that you can think about through the course of a day for 4 weeks, or you can read them in groups. Like, there's no right or wrong way to go through it. But if you are looking for something to fill you up and other than, all the other things that you do. But if you're really like, oh, I'm going to put that phone aside for a while and I'm going to grab a book, and I want this to be a great complement to something else that you're studying spiritually or something that you're studying from a productivity, I really highly recommend this. So on day 7 of this 4 weeks to embracing your limitations and, making room for what really counts, it's entitled, Let the Future Be the Future, on crossing bridges when you come to them. Now, he shares about a time when, he was waiting. I think he was moving from one apartment to another, but he couldn't make all of his plans for his move until he knew when the other guy was going to move out of his apartment. And so he was sitting there playing the waiting game. And he said, I'm going to read from it because I love his language. Suddenly, all this mental fidgeting struck me as absurd and in a profound way. I love that term, mental fidgeting. It's such the perfect description. He said, I was seeking to reassure myself on a question about which, as philosophers like to say, there was no fact of the matter. It wasn't merely that I didn't know the answer yet. It was that no answer would even exist until a point in the near future. This was a bridge I had no option but to cross when I came to it. I love that sentence. This was a bridge I had no option but to cross when I came to it. You know, language is such a beautiful thing. And I think the structure of that particular sentence reminds me of poetry and the use of language in a way that it's close to how we speak, but it's not exactly how we speak on a day-to-day basis. And because it's not exactly how we speak, we pause in trying to kind of wrap our brain around what exactly it's saying. And that little pause is just enough to just, it's like the crack that the hallelujah comes through. It's like just enough to kind of startle us out of our own trance of thinking that we do have some control over the future and that we can plan for things before we get to them. So this was a bridge I had no option but to cross when I came to it. What I am taking out of this and what I am starting to use for myself and sharing with my other clients is this question. When I find myself, whether it's the gas tank that's empty and I'm running late, or the phone call telling me someone's sick at school and I need to drop everything and pick them up, or what happened to me last Tuesday with Brennan. What I'm taking from this is when my brain is trying to go too far into the future, right? If it wants to decide like, oh gosh, Brennan's has this seizure, this is going to mean he can't drive a car for 6 months. How is he going to get back and forth to his internship? Oh my goodness, does this mean we need to find somebody who can drive him? He's going to have, you can hear the mental fidgeting that's going on in there. Instead, I think of, is this a bridge that I have the ability to cross right now? Like, do I actually know what's going to happen? Do I know what's going on in his school? Do I know any of the things? Or is this a bridge that I have no option but to cross when I get to it, right? Like, I know we've got to call his school and that we were going to call them when we got home and let them know what's going on. And then we would have a conversation with the school. And here's the interesting thing. We did have that phone call yesterday. And the lady at the school said, oh, yeah, we have a taxi service for that. We have this thing called the Green Taxi in Charleston. We have a lot of students with epilepsy. And when they have seizures and they can't drive, we have this Green Taxi on call. And the taxi's going to take Brennan to and from his internship. Think about all the resources that I saved for myself and all the time and energy that I saved for myself in realizing that was not a bridge that I had to cross last week or that I needed to cross until I came to it, which was in that phone call yesterday. And I want you to think about all those things for yourself too. You get the phone call from school and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got that really important meeting tomorrow. Now I need to get XYZ in place. Maybe, maybe not. Figure out for yourself, like, is this a bridge that I need to cross yet? And then answer that question for yourself. And I'm not saying don't make those plans and don't cross that bridge. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is take the time to put your hand over your heart, to stop, look, and listen, and just ask yourself the question to see, is this a bridge I need to cross now? But is this a bridge that I can't help but cross until I get to it? Well, I have so many more ahas from last week, and I'm going to sprinkle them here and there in the podcast throughout the rest of this season. But for now, I think that's enough. I just want to tell you, thank you. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for being a listener to this podcast. Thank you for showing up the way you do in your life every day. It really matters. The way you show up really, really matters to the rest of the world. You are the butterfly effect in your circle. And so I just want you to know that I appreciate you and I see you and I thank you for being here. Don't forget to go to TaraSimkins.com and make sure you're on my email list to get that tool and all the other goodies that I share from time to time. Until next week, or the week after. Have a great afternoon.
I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.